Namaskar. Welcome to 8th session of Baat Pachisi, we will, where we will go back to discuss the first chapter or first subject we discussed in detail. That was the Industrial Revolution, development or evolution, and why it is called so and what were the effects. So on 8th session, we are going back to the same subject and trying to understand and trying to discuss that why and how industrial development, evolution or revolution, whatever it is called, is started in England. So what was the basic factors contributing to that process which is still continuing and gave a preeminent position to England about the development and industrial technologies, invention, mass production of goods, changing of agricultural society to industrialized one, and that happened in England. And there are certain 10 or 12 important contributors to this happening, which is still continuing all over the world. So let's try to discuss. But at the beginning, we try to look at this time frame, uh, the period under which, after 1750, the industrial development process started, and it kick started around 1770. That means around 250 years the world has changed like nothing has happened before. For millions of years, for thousands of years, the mankind, the people have lived, traveled, talked to each other, fought wars, build wealth or destroy it in a literally same way with not much difference. But last 250 to 270 years have been a phenomenal change in how people live, how they die, what they do, how they communicate, they transport, and do business or do their job, raise families, and where they live and how they live, what kind of facilities are there. And there are markets which have a lot of newer and newer technological and product and services, which is changing their life and job they do in a fundamental way. How they communicate is something very, very important. How is travel, distance travel is important. So it is still undergoing. So when we talk about the period when industrialization or development started happening in England, and from there onwards is spread to other countries, from England to Belgium, France, and then to America, and gradually all over the world. So that was the time frame when it was happening. To give this thing a retrospective, information. The East India Company, which came to trade in India, was formed in year 1600. So when industrial development started happening beyond of 1750 and beyond, which kick started in 1770, the world was changed by uh, British imperialism. They have traveled far and wide, gone into uncharted territories, unknown areas. They faced unknown and dangers and death and destruction on the way. But the quest to explore the world was there, and that was happening not only in the England but in other countries as well of the Europe, who were on the same way to go to the far and wide world globally and find new trade opportunities, and gradually establishing colonies there, like British did in India. So the British established East India Company, a systematic commercial venture to go explore the world, find the business opportunities and benefit from it, sell the British product, get the raw material from their far and wide areas, and all those things was done systematically by mercantilism, establishing companies which has so many owners. The British people, the rich people, invested in this venture, which allowed people uh, to go on long voyages into uncharted territory. And in India, they arrived in Surat in 1608, and the later on, there were development, and from trade and commerce to they established rule, they started ruling India. But so that's a different story. So we are talking about the time frame when the industrial development started happening in England. They already had a global empire, from India, from Africa, from America, Australia, and so many other places, from where they could source raw material. Like from India, they sourced cotton and other products to be refined and processed further in England and sold to other countries and back to India as well. So that was a commercial operation which enhanced or supported the industrial development or revolution, whatever is called, taking in England. So now we try to discuss certain important factors which contributed to England being the originator or the main source of industrial enhancement or developments. That changed the the society of England from primarily an agrarian society to gradually to an industrial society. So one of the important first thing was that most important inventions and innovations in machines and technologies were happening in England, and that powered the revolution or development process there. And because of that they had better economic power, uh, because they could travel by better ships, they had better navigation equipments, they had better weapons to fight with whosoever decided to confront them and their known and unknown enemies. And there was element of a confidence, a certain, you can call it a European confidence, which allowed them to slowly explore at a great risk far and wide geographies, countries, societies of the world. And so, when industrial revolution was about to begin, or it was beginning, getting speed, already England had a vast colonial empire, imperial empire throughout the world, which benefited them in so many ways and which made them a economic power. The third important factor which propelled the industrial development and revolution further, that the Great Britain or England had a political reason. It was for the political reason. While at the same time, England was at war, but at different places, not in England. It was far away places, maybe in India and other Africa and other countries in America also. So those conflict and wars and battles, they took place outside of England. So in England, the life of the ordinary people was relatively peaceful. There was law and order, so the people can go about doing their business, whatever they were doing, uh, without being disturbed by war and conflict, which was happening through many countries in Europe. Like in France, the French Revolution was same way, building up from 1787 around to the end of century, in 1799 or 1800. So that was a political difference which advantage uh, the England had over other countries. And the other important contributor to better and faster industrialization or industrial development or revolution in England was geography of the country. It is very important. So it's an island, it can have ports all around the periphery, and so that they can transport large amount of material and manufactured product at a lower cost within the country and outside the country for trade and business. And as well as within England, there were rivers which were also used for transportation. So the transportation of the raw material and the finished goods within England or outside was relatively getting cheaper because of the accessibility, close proximity of uh, the ports from the production center all over the England, wherever they are. And the other reason was the political system of England encouraged trade and entrepreneurship. That was a kick start. And there were rules were formed. The legal system was put in place, which allowed formation of company, joint stock companies. It also, enforced property right and respect for the patent for the inventions. So the government supported other aspect of capitalism, which helped the entrepreneur to create wealth, to go into newer areas, to innovate, and to try to do things in a better way, in a systematic way, and thereby increasing their business and increasing their surplus, that is profit. So that happened in the factories and mines. And the other important, some seventh important factor which allowed was the industrial development. Before industrial development, the agricultural development or revolution has already happened in England. So England for a long time been, like other countries, are basically an agrarian nation. The crop rotation techniques, etc., propelled, they increased the productivity and wastage of seeds. And it has a fertile land. By crop rotation, they divided the field into three or four parts, and they grew their vegetables or crop in a rotational way, maintaining the fertility of the land, of the soil, and growing output was getting higher. And the farmers also, they experimented with their livestock. But they used larger animals, healthier animals to breed, and that's how they got healthier and larger animals to be used as animal power or for food or meat or whatever. But at the same time, the wealthy landowners or the rich people were buying up small farms, and they were making their landholding bigger. They are putting fences to demarcate their land, and that enclosure was there. So it led to more productivity, more confidence. There was a demarcation of land holding which propelled it. But the people who sold their land, the farmers, the small farmer who sold their land to richer farmers or the larger, bigger farmers, they had to move. They had to move for economic reasons. Number one, they had cash with them, so they could experiment with them. They went to new places where the opportunities were opening up, and generally they went to larger and bigger cities from smaller and towns and villages. So there was a supply of people to be human capital for manufacturing facilities and factories, and also the mining, which was expanding, which was coming up very well in this period. And the eighth important, that was can be the something of significance, was information and knowledge sharing through newspapers and books. And that happened because in 1790, the William Nicholson was to patent his cylinder press. At that time, only about 1500 people could receive a copy of, they could read a copy of Times. But over a period of time between uh, 50 to 60 years, the Times was now printed in 40 to 50,000 copies. So the information, which was political, social in nature, different events, and also science and technology, also the job opportunities, building of new factories, expansion of job opportunities were available to people in far more way, a larger way than it was possible years and decades before. So it was also an important aspect, information and knowledge sharing. And because of these regions around 1750, where the industrial development process was getting uh, uh, activated in a higher frame, it was going into the next stage. The Englands had also obtained a preeminent stage at the workshop of the world. That was something very, very significant, which they could do because of whatever they have done before. So, the other reason for Britain to have a faster development in the industrial sector was due to the vast colonial empire. When the industrial revolution was beginning, Britain was in midst of that was age of imperialism. The British Empire, it was their fire far and wide into globally, and they could explore business opportunity. They could source raw material and ship them, like they could ship cotton from India and process it further there. Unlike so many other raw material or semi-finished goods which they transported to England and processed it further, sell it to India, back to India, and to the other countries, and that was happening. Uh, Before that, in 1700, Britain has a control over large areas in Asia, in North America, Africa, Egypt, Australia, etc. So from India, the cotton was going there, and they were slaves were used to collect it. As technology improved, the cotton picking became easier, and the industry and the England has an access to coal, iron, lead, copper, tin, limestone, and water was there. Water was used as a power source through water wheels into textile industry and to the other industry, and it changed when the steam engine was perfected. So, but there is an important thing to understand. The steam engine was invented in 1712 by Thomas Newcomen, and it was used to pump out water and do some other things. But that steam engine needed a certain significant improvement and innovation to put to a better use with better power, with ease of operation. But that didn't happen in a year or 10 years or 20 years. It took around 60 years. So it was only due to the late 1760s or 70s when uh, it was put to uh, better use to pump out water, and then it led to a great changeover into transportation or manufacturing processes when James Watt used it, but that took around 60 years. So these are the important points to be understood, to be known, that why in England became the center or the creator of industrial development, revolution, or evolution. And this is the important point is in this respect, from Indian perspective, in state services exams and IAS and UPSC exam, one question always comes centered around the industrial revolution, how it happened, where it happened, and what effect it had on people and society and the world all over. So the important thing is around in 250 years, the society and the world had changed far beyond the people who used to live around 400 or 500 years ago could even imagine. So, in case of the transportation, in case of communication, in terms of manufacturing, everything has changed. So, we hope that this short program on why industrial development or revolution or evolution happened in England, what was the reasons for it. We talked briefly about that, and later on in next program, the four phases of industrial revolution will be discussed in details. So hope you have liked this program. So please subscribe it. You press the bell button, like the program, and if you like it, you share it with your friends and family. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. We will meet again in another program of Baat 25. Thank you.